Hey, legal drama enthusiasts. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the mid season episode of the legal drama that's been keeping us on the edge of our seats Suits LA. Episode 6, titled Damage Control, marks a pivotal turning point in the season as our characters face mounting pressures both professionally and personally. For those who've been following our recaps, you know we're now firmly in the middle of Ted Black's journey from entertainment lawyer back to his roots in criminal defense. The first 5 episodes have built up significant stakes. Ted's struggling new firm, the ongoing Lester Thompson murder case, the complicated history with his father, and of course, those mysterious appearances of Eddie's ghost. If you're just joining us now, a quick reminder. This video will contain major spoilers for episode 6 and all previous episodes. I'm going to break down everything, all the twists, turns, and jaw-dropping moments. So if you haven't watched it yet, now's your chance to pause this video and come back after you've experienced it for yourself. Still with me? Great. Episode 6 is particularly significant because it represents the midpoint of the season. In storytelling terms, this is often where we see major shifts in momentum, revelations that change our understanding of previous events, and turning points for character arcs. Damage Control delivers on all these fronts. For this hour-long breakdown, I'll be covering everything. The major developments in Lester's case, the evolving dynamics between Ted and Stewart, the associates' growing challenges, and of course, those revealing flashbacks to Ted's time in New York. So grab your coffee, settle in, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss our in-depth episode analyses. Now, let's dive into Damage Control and see how Ted and his team handle the fallout from last episode's bombshell revelations. Episode 6 opens with Ted standing in his modest new office space, a stark contrast to the luxurious Black Lane headquarters we saw in the premiere. The camera pans across boxes still waiting to be unpacked, reflecting the transitory nature of Ted's current situation. Kevin is on the phone arguing with someone about evidence access for the Lester Thompson case, while Erica is organizing case files. The scene effectively establishes the underdog status Ted's new team now occupies. The main plot of Damage Control centers on a major setback in Lester's case. The prosecution has uncovered a damning piece of evidence that seems to place Lester at the murder scene exactly when the victim was killed, contradicting his alibi. This forces Ted's team into crisis mode as they scramble to find an explanation that could save their client. Meanwhile, Stewart is thriving at his new merged firm, now called Rails Back Lane. He's landed several high-profile entertainment clients who previously worked with Ted, suggesting that Stewart may have been planning his betrayal for some time. However, we also see cracks in Stewart's confidence when he overhears associates discussing how Ted would have handled a particular contract negotiation differently. On the personal front, Ted continues to be haunted by his brother Eddie's ghost, who appears during a particularly stressful moment to remind Ted of a similar situation from their childhood. This flashback reveals more about their relationship and hints at why Ted feels such intense guilt over Eddie's death. The episode also develops the romantic tension between Ted and Amanda, the prosecutor assigned to Lester's case. After a heated courtroom confrontation, they run into each other at a local bar. Their conversation starts as verbal sparring but evolves into something more personal, revealing mutual respect beneath their professional rivalry. Rick, who chose to stay with Stewart after the split, finds himself caught between loyalties when Stewart asks him to reach out to one of Ted's former clients. His discomfort with this assignment suggests he's questioning his decision to side with Stewart. The most shocking development comes midway through the episode when Ted's team discovers that someone has been tampering with evidence in Lester's case. At first, Ted suspects the prosecution, but a conversation with Kevin leads him to a more disturbing possibility. Someone within Lester's inner circle might be working against them. This suspicion leads Ted to confront Lester himself, asking if there's anything else he needs to know. The episode's climactic scene shows Lester finally breaking down and revealing a crucial piece of information he'd been hiding. He was indeed at the murder scene, but arrived after the victim was already dead. He panicked and fled without calling the police, making him look guilty despite not committing the murder. The episode ends with Ted staring out the window of his office, considering the moral and legal implications of Lester's revelation. Eddie's ghost appears beside him and says, "Now you know how Dad felt." A cryptic comment that suggests a connection between Lester's predicament and Ted's father's criminal past. Episode 6 provides significant development for our main characters, deepening our understanding of their motivations and conflicts. Ted Black continues to be the most complex character in the series. In Damage Control, we see him struggling with the practical challenges of running a new firm while handling a high-profile murder case. What makes Ted fascinating in this episode is how his professional challenges trigger personal memories. A particularly revealing scene occurs when Ted is alone in his office late at night, reviewing evidence, and Eddie's ghost appears. Their conversation reveals that Ted's tendency to take on impossible cases started in childhood, when he would defend Eddie against bullies despite being outnumbered. Stephen Amell delivers his strongest performance of the season so far in the confrontation scene with Lester. When Lester finally confesses to being at the murder scene, Ted's reaction is a masterclass in controlled emotion. We see anger, disappointment, and determination all competing in his expression. This scene also reinforces Ted's moral complexity. He's furious at Lester for lying, but still committed to defending him, suggesting that Ted's sense of justice transcends simple questions of guilt or innocence. Stuart Lane's character takes an interesting turn in this episode. While previous episodes portrayed him primarily as Ted's betrayer, Damage Control shows him dealing with the consequences of his actions. A subtle moment occurs when Stuart is giving instructions to his team and automatically looks to where Ted would have been standing, only to catch himself. This small gesture suggests that, despite the betrayal, Stuart misses his partnership with Ted. Josh McDermott expertly conveys Stuart's conflicted feelings, pride in his success mixed with doubt about whether he made the right choice. Kevin, Ted's former colleague from New York, emerges as a more significant character in this episode. We learn that he left the prosecutor's office under controversial circumstances, hinting at a past professional scandal. His determination to redeem himself through Lester's case adds an interesting layer to his character. The scene where Kevin confides in Ted about his past mistakes humanizes him and establishes a deeper bond between the two men. Erica continues to prove her value to Ted's team, showing remarkable resourcefulness in tracking down witnesses the prosecution had overlooked. Her loyalty to Ted is further cemented when Stuart attempts to recruit her with a lucrative offer, which she firmly rejects. This decision reveals that Erica values principles over career advancement, making her one of the most morally grounded characters in the show. Rick's storyline becomes more complex as he struggles with his decision to join Stuart's firm. His discomfort when Stuart asks him to poach Ted's clients suggests he's experiencing regret and divided loyalties. A telling scene occurs when Rick runs into Erica at the courthouse and can barely meet her eyes, indicating his shame over choosing the seemingly easier path. Amanda, the prosecutor on Lester's case, develops beyond her initial antagonistic role. The bar scene with Ted reveals her as a principled attorney with her own complex backstory. Her admission that she became a prosecutor after her sister was a victim of a violent crime adds depth to her character and explains her determination to seek justice. The chemistry between Ted and Amanda becomes more evident in this episode, setting up a potential romantic subplot complicated by their professional opposition. Lester Thompson undergoes the most dramatic character development in Damage Control. His confession about being at the murder scene transforms him from a potentially innocent victim of circumstance to a morally ambiguous figure who made a terrible decision. The vulnerability he shows when finally telling Ted the truth humanizes him while making us question whether he's been manipulating Ted all along. Eddie's ghost continues to serve as both Ted's conscience and a link to his past. In this episode, Eddie's appearances seem more directly connected to Ted's current dilemmas, suggesting that the supernatural element is more than just a gimmick. It's a way for Ted to process his thoughts and emotions through the lens of his most significant relationship. Damage Control is packed with pivotal scenes that advance both the plot and character development. Let's break down the most significant moments from this jam packed episode. The episode opens with a powerful cold open showing Ted in the midst of a nightmare. He's back in the New York courtroom where he prosecuted Gustini, but this time Eddie is sitting in the defendant's chair. Ted wakes up in a cold sweat, immediately establishing the emotional stakes of the episode and reinforcing the connection between Ted's past and present cases. The first major courtroom scene shows Ted facing off against Amanda as she presents the new evidence, placing Lester at the murder scene. The tension is palpable as Ted realizes he's been blindsided not just by the prosecution, but potentially by his own client. Stephen Amell's facial expressions convey Ted's quick mental calculations as he requests a brief recess, a classic legal drama moment that showcases Ted's ability to think on his feet. A particularly revealing scene occurs in Ted's temporary office when Kevin brings news that a key witness has recanted their statement. Ted immediately suspects tampering, but instead of celebrating this advantage, he shows genuine concern about the integrity of the case. This moment highlights Ted's complex relationship with justice. He wants to win, but not at the expense of the truth. The confrontation between Ted and Stewart in the courthouse hallway crackles with tension. When Stewart smugly mentions his success with Ted's former clients, Ted responds not with anger, but with a knowing smile, saying, "Clients come and go, Stewart. It's how you sleep at night that matters." This exchange suggests that, despite appearances, Ted might be more at peace with his current situation than Stewart is with his success. One of the most emotionally charged scenes involves a flashback triggered when Ted visits his father in the hospital. We see young Ted and Eddie being dropped off at school by their father, who tells them, "Remember, no matter what happens, black men stick together." This seemingly innocuous memory takes on darker implications when connected to what we now know about Eddie's death and Ted's father's involvement. The episode features a brilliant parallel montage cutting between Ted preparing for court and Stewart negotiating a major deal. The contrast in their environments, Ted's sparse office versus Stewart's luxurious conference room, is visually striking, but the similar intensity both men bring to their work suggests they're more alike than different. A subtle but important moment occurs when Erica discovers a discrepancy in the timeline presented by the prosecution. Her excitement at finding this detail leads to a spontaneous high five with Kevin, establishing the growing camaraderie among Ted's new team. This small victory gives them momentum heading into the episode's climactic scenes. The pivotal moment of the episode comes when Ted confronts Lester in a tense private meeting. Ted lays out all the inconsistencies in Lester's story and demands the truth. The scene is masterfully acted, with Lester initially maintaining his innocence before finally breaking down and admitting he was at the murder scene but didn't commit the crime. This revelation forces Ted to reevaluate his entire defense strategy. Perhaps the most haunting scene is a brief flashback showing Ted receiving the news of Eddie's death. We see Ted in his New York prosecutor's office when he gets the call, his expression shifting from annoyance at the interruption to shock and devastation. This moment humanizes Ted and helps explain his complex relationship with his past. The episode climaxes with Ted deciding to continue defending Lester despite his dishonesty. In a powerful monologue delivered to his small team, Ted explains that everyone deserves a defense, even those who make terrible mistakes. This speech reveals Ted's core philosophy and sets the stage for the more nuanced approach they'll need to take moving forward. The final scene shows Ted alone in his office late at night, reviewing the case files again. Eddie's ghost appears and makes the cryptic comment about their father. The camera pulls back to reveal that the office lights are the only ones still on in the building, symbolizing Ted's isolation but also his determination. Damage Control represents a significant turning point for Suits, L.A., elevating the series from a straightforward legal drama to something more nuanced and morally complex. The episode's title works on multiple levels, referring to the literal damage control Ted's team must do for Lester's case, the professional damage from Ted and Stewart's split, and the emotional damage all characters are trying to manage. What makes this episode particularly effective is how it intertwines the legal case with deeper thematic questions about truth, loyalty, and redemption. Lester's revelation that he was at the murder scene but didn't commit the crime creates a morally ambiguous situation that mirrors Ted's own complicated past. Both men made decisions that, while not criminal in themselves, led to disastrous consequences and ongoing guilt. The writing in Damage Control is notably stronger than in previous episodes, with dialogue that reveals character through subtext rather than exposition. The confrontation between Ted and Stewart in the courthouse hallway, for instance, communicates volumes about their relationship through what they don't say to each other. Similarly, the scene between Ted and Amanda at the bar uses their professional rivalry as a lens to explore their personal values without resorting to heavy-handed character declarations. Stephen Amell deserves particular praise for his performance in this episode. He brings a wounded intensity to Ted that makes you simultaneously root for him and question his motivations. The scene where Ted decides to continue defending Lester, despite his dishonesty, showcases Amel's ability to convey complex emotional states, determination tinged with doubt, righteousness shadowed by personal guilt. The supernatural element with Eddie's ghost is used more effectively in this episode than in previous ones. Rather than seeming like a gimmick, Eddie's appearances feel organically connected to Ted's emotional and moral journey. The final scene, where Eddie cryptically references their father, suggests that the supernatural aspect might be more than just a window into Ted's psyche. It could be a key to unlocking the central mystery of the series. From a technical standpoint, Damage Control features some of the show's strongest direction yet. The parallel montage comparing Ted and Stewart's working styles is particularly well executed, using visual storytelling to highlight their similarities and differences without explicit commentary. The lighting design throughout the episode subtly reinforces character dynamics, with Ted often partially in shadow, while Stewart is bathed in the harsh light of success. If the episode has a weakness, it's that some of the subplot developments, particularly Rick's crisis of conscience, feel somewhat rushed. His conflict over helping Stewart poach Ted's clients could have been given more screen time to develop naturally. Similarly, Erica's rejection of Stewart's job offer happens so quickly that we don't get to see her full thought process. However, these are minor critiques in an episode that substantially raises the bar for the series. Damage Control succeeds in deepening our investment in the characters while complicating the central case in intriguing ways. By the end of the hour, both the legal stakes and emotional stakes have been significantly raised, setting up compelling questions for the second half of the season. Episode 6 leaves us with several burning questions and narrative threads that will likely drive the next installment, Episode 7. First and foremost is how Ted will adjust his defense strategy now that he knows Lester was at the murder scene. The preview for Episode 7 suggests that Ted will shift from trying to prove Lester's complete innocence to investigating who else could have committed the murder before Lester arrived. This change in approach will likely put Ted at odds with Kevin, who is shown in the preview arguing that they should push for a plea deal rather than risk a full trial. Ted's personal investigation into Eddie's death seems poised to accelerate in Episode 7. The cryptic comment from Eddie's ghost about their father has clearly struck a nerve with Ted. The preview shows Ted visiting someone in prison, possibly Gostini or another figure from his prosecutor days, suggesting he's digging deeper into the connection between his father's criminal activities and Eddie's murder. The dynamic between Ted and Amanda is set to become more complicated. Their bar conversation in Episode 6 established a personal connection beyond their professional rivalry. The preview for Episode 7 includes a brief scene of them running into each other outside the courthouse, with body language suggesting their relationship is evolving in unexpected ways. This development could create both personal and ethical dilemmas for Ted as he defends Lester against Amanda's prosecution. Stewart's storyline appears to be heading toward a crisis of confidence. Despite his outward success, Episode 6 showed subtle signs that he's questioning his decision to betray Ted. The preview for episode 7 includes a tense scene of Stuart arguing with Samantha Railsback, hinting that their partnership may not be as harmonious as it initially seemed. This conflict could potentially open a door for eventual reconciliation between Ted and Stuart. Rick's divided loyalties will likely come to a head in episode 7. The preview shows him in what appears to be a serious conversation with Ted, suggesting he might be considering jumping ship from Stewart's firm. His inside knowledge of Railsback Lane could provide Ted with valuable strategic information, but using it would raise ethical questions about professional conduct. Erica's storyline seems set to focus on her investigation into the evidence tampering. The preview shows her meeting with someone in a parking garage, a classic setup for an exchange of sensitive information. Her detective work could lead to revelations about who is working against Lester's defense and why. The most intriguing hint for episode 7 comes in a brief flash of Ted looking at what appears to be an old photograph of his father with several other men. This suggests we'll learn more about his father's criminal connections and how they might relate to both Eddie's death and Ted's current situations. The title of episode 7, Blood Ties, certainly reinforces this focus on family history. All these threads coming together promise an episode that will continue to deepen the unique identity of Suits LA while building on the strong foundation established in Damage Control. The shift toward investigating who actually killed the victim rather than simply defending Lester marks an important evolution in the season's central case, potentially transforming it from a straightforward defense story to something more akin to a legal thriller. Damage Control marks a significant elevation for Suits LA, transforming it from a somewhat predictable spin-off into a compelling drama with its own distinct identity. This 6th episode successfully balances legal intrigue, character development, and the ongoing mystery of Ted's past in a way that leaves viewers eager for more. The revelation about Lester being at the murder scene, but not committing the crime, adds a welcome layer of moral complexity to what could have been a straightforward innocent or guilty narrative. This gray area aligns perfectly with Ted's own complicated relationship with justice, creating a thematic coherence that strengthens the storytelling. Stephen Amell continues to impress as Ted Black, bringing depth and nuance to a character who could easily have been a one-note legal shark. His scenes with Eddie's ghost provide some of the most emotionally resonant moments of the series so far, offering glimpses of vulnerability beneath Ted's confident exterior. The supernatural element, which initially seemed like an odd choice for a legal drama, has evolved into one of the show's most distinctive and effective features. The supporting cast is also hitting their stride by this midpoint of the season. Josh McDermott brings unexpected complexity to Stuart, making him more than just a villain. Kevin and Erica are developing into well-rounded characters with their own motivations and conflicts. Even Amanda, initially positioned as a straightforward antagonist, has evolved into a multi-dimensional character whose opposition to Ted comes from principled conviction rather than simple plot necessity. The production values deserve special mention in this episode. The direction, particularly in the parallel montage sequences comparing Ted and Stuart, shows a sophisticated visual sensibility that enhances the storytelling. The score effectively underlines emotional beats without becoming intrusive, and the Los Angeles setting continues to be used in ways that distinguish the show from its New York-based predecessor. If the first 5 episodes of Suits LA were about establishing the premise and characters, Damage Control is about deepening our understanding of both. The legal case has become more complex, the character relationships more nuanced, and the central mystery more intriguing. This episode feels like the point where the show finds its voice and begins to justify its existence as more than just a brand extension. As we move into the second half of the season, Damage Control has set up compelling questions about justice, loyalty, family, and redemption that promise to drive the narrative forward. Whether Ted can save Lester while also coming to terms with his own past remains to be seen, but this episode makes us genuinely care about the answer. What did you think of Damage Control? Do you believe Lester's version of events? Are you Team Ted or Team Stewart? And what's your theory about Eddie's death and Ted's father's involvement? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with your fellow legal drama enthusiasts. I'll be back next week with a full breakdown of episode 7, Blood Ties, so make sure you've got those notifications turned on. Until next time, this is Amelia 2.00, making sense of the legal chaos one episode at a time.